everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Allison.
And this is Nerd of the Week, a randomly generated fandom podcast. Beautiful and kind word generator. Could you remind us and the audience what our word is this week?
Please.
The word of the week is Constellation.
Constellation. All right. So, definition of constellation. What do you think?
I think it is a group of stars that form a specific shape.
All right. It is a noun, and it is a group of stars forming a recognizable pattern that is traditionally named after its apparent form or identified with a mythological figure.
That got a lot fancier than I thought it should have.
It keeps going. Modern astronomers divide the sky into 88 constellations with defined boundaries.
Okay.
And then I guess I learned something, that there's 88 constellations. I feel like there's more than 88 constellation worth of stars in the sky that you can see regularly, though.
Yeah. Also, I think there's like different ones depending on what part of the world you're in.
Right? I am confusion.
Suspicious.
What modern astronomers are we talking about here? Please explain.
Well, certainly not Copernicus. That's the only astronomer I can think of off the top of my head.
You know, I don't know many myself. Galileo? That's one, right? I think. Oh, God.
Yeah, we can call him an astronomer, I think. I think he had a fancy telescope. Yeah, he probably invented the telescope. That sounds like a thing he did. Unless this is just now an alt history podcast.
You know, it might be, because I tend to, just assume things and then declare them boldly as fact, whether or not it's true or not. So, please, if you don't agree with us, let us know. Or if you can fact check us. I would love to learn the correct answers to words and what they mean. Random bit of trivia that Google also decided to tell me is that the Stella part in constellation means star based on the Latin for star.
I think I could have guessed that.
Not related at all, but pertinent to tell you about on this podcast is a squirrel has just crawled across my screen on my window.
Oh, okay, not your computer screen, your window screen.
My window screen, not my computer screen, but he is just looking at me, hanging onto the screen for dear life, and I don't know what to do about this. But
I guess just let it happen at this point.
In case you hear weird noises in a moment, it is me trying to get the squirrel to not die. Okay.
Best of luck to the squirrel.
Hello, sir. Or madam, I don't actually know. Okay, all right, back to tracking what we were doing. I am talking about a game today.
Of course you are. You
were surprised.
Are.
Surprised
and
you are.
Is it about space?
It's not really.
Wow, okay.
I know. Constellation, and I didn't pick one about space. I mean, there's stuff in space. Like, there's the constellation stars that are in space that you interact with. So... it's space adjacent.
I think regardless of what we talked about, this was all going to be space adjacent.
I think everything is space adjacent if you're in space, floating all the time, because we are on a planet in space. So unless the thing we were talking about takes place in a universe where space doesn't exist, then it's not space adjacent? Question mark?
Oh my gosh, but if we were in a different universe, potentially it sits next to this universe, in which case it's still space adjacent.
You're right.
You can't escape space.
You cannot escape space. Space is always right behind you. Or slightly to the left.
You.
Space is all around you.
This is existential, my goodness.
Yep. That tracks.
These are like late night shower thoughts, kind of.
Apparently the first 5 minutes of our podcast are turning into late night shower thoughts, which is fine. I'm here for it.
Not 6 p.m. dinner time thoughts.
Just weird thoughts that stream of consciousness out of my brain.
All right. Well,
All right.
if we're done existential dreading about space,
I wasn't
what are you
dreading.
Okay, space is kind of scary, don't you think?
I mean, no, it's real cool.
The
but,
infiniteness of it?
I mean, like, eventually it's gotta end. We just don't know where it ends.
But
and
does
it's fine.
it? But does
no,
it?
It doesn't have to, I guess. We're just expanding indefinitely. Expanding into what? Who knows? But we're just expanding forever. And that there's some comfort in that. Because it just keeps going. Anyway,
this is too much for my brain.
Anyway, I'm talking about a video game about a dog god.
Okay.
It's called Okami, and it is a action-adventure video game developed by Clover Studio, published by Capcom, and was released in 2006 in Japan and North America. And it is called Okami, which is about a god, the god Amaterasu, in the form of a wolf. And a small, wee version of me, anytime I got to play as a dog in a video game, I was super into it. So I played the crap out of this game. I think I've played it like 8 times and just recently picked it up again, and probably will play through it again. It revolves around a kind of like Japanese lore type situation where the evil Orochimaru god like took over the world and tried to destroy it and shroud it in darkness, and Amaterasu fought him and won. The game is set in Nippon, based on Japanese classical history, and then there's a small village called Kamiki. I think I'm saying that right. Okay. There's no major dialogue. Like there's words that you can read, but it's kind of like that like wah 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 sounds instead of like people actually talking. So I don't know if I pronounce anything wrong. I apologize. But there is a swordsman who fought. His name was Nagi, and he fought with the great white wolf who defended Kamiki village from the demon Orochi, who every year demanded a sacrifice of a maiden, that old chestnut. And Nagi didn't want his beloved to die, so he took up arms against the evil snake god, and he won. And so there's a celebration every year, and 100 years later, we get this scene of a guy like kind of shrouded in darkness as he's like looking at the like infamous sword in the stone situation. Like, what was so great about this guy? And I could also be this great guy. So then he pulls the sword out of the stone like you're not supposed to do. And then darkness like instantly just starts like seeping from all of the areas and just shrouds everything. And then the guy who stole the sword just like books it running, and the sword. Wow, we're doing great. The sword disappears or shatters or something happens to it, and the life of everything is getting sapped by Orochi's presence because his seal was broken because the sword is now gone. Then there's a visage and the honor of the white wolf, who everyone called Shiranui? Something like that. Shiranui. And it was like the symbol of protection for the village. And everyone had been talking about how they had been seeing a white wolf around, but they thought the wolf was a soldier for Orochi, so they were wary of it. But in the lore and the legend, the wolf like changes sides and then helps the good guys win. So they were kind of unsure about this wolf that the people in the village had been seeing. But turns out that this wolf is actually our main hero, Amaterasu. And the wood sprite and the guardian of Kamiki village, Sakuya, awakens from a tree and calls forth Amaterasu and says, we need your help. Please come and defeat the great evil like you did last time. And then as she's giving this like big important speech, she starts laughing. And the inch-high warrior Isun, who looks like a little bug guy with a giant green hat, comes like popping out of her shirt and is like kind of like one of those like anime tropes of like the lovable perv type character. And he like shows up like, ha, I am successful in my adventure.
Oh gosh. Oh no.
Isun is amazing and I love him. He's a good boy. He's just also a little bit of a boy, so it's fine. Isun helps Amaterasu kind of regain her feet because she was asleep for 100 years. So she's just kind of disoriented and trying to figure out what's going on. And they go through the tutorial level, which is like this kind of like half like alternate or like pocket dimension that Sakuya cooked up so that Ami could figure out her powers. And how Amaterasu gets her powers is through the celestial brush. She has this magical brush technique, which was part of the gimmick of the Wii, where you could take the Wii remote and then like make different shapes. And so then it was supposed to like track on the TV and then make those shapes, which in theory sounds really cool, but in practice on the Wii was horrid and terrible. And I was very happy when the game got adapted to the PlayStation 2 and you could just kind of draw it with the joysticks. But the idea was neat, and it was definitely trying to use different technology for 2007. And how you got to different powers was that you looked up into the stars and then you drew out the constellation of one of the zodiacs. And that, yeah, so we got to Constellation. And then you freed them from the prison because they went and I think they either hid up there or they were trapped up there once Orochi got free. So then they went and hid to protect themselves. And then so Amaterasu releases them and then gets her different powers through them. The first one that you do is Yomigami, who is a huge dragon with the scroll, and he gives you the rejuvenation power that lets you, there's different parts of the world that are like crumbled and decayed, and then so the way you fix it is you like cover it in ink, and then through magical ink powers, like the bridge gets fixed or the river is forded the correct way or whatever. And then, the next, I believe you get him very soon after, is Tachigami, who gives you the power slash technique. And he's this really teeny tiny rat, and he's holding a giant, like, buster sword, and I love him so much.
Does he sit on your head and make you do things?
That's what Isun does. You more, like, free them from the celestial plane, and then they like bequeath you their powers, and then they kind of go off to do other things, or like so that you can tap into their powers, but they have other things they need to do, like they need to go take care of their own villages. So they just help Ami out that way. And so then you spend a lot of the game going through the different village, saving everyone out of the village, saving everyone in the like residual towns nearby, and then the world opens up as you get more powers, and you'll like run by something that you're like, eventually I'll have a power to do that thing. And Amaterasu is able to eventually restore the land to its former beauty, and is joined by Waka, who is a strange but powerful individual who has the gift of foresight and always shows up at like the most random time to give you these like wild prophecies that make no sense. And then even after you play through the game, you're like, that really still doesn't make a lot of sense, buddy, but that's okay.
Hey, just a plot device to make another character.
Mm-hmm. And Waka's pretty cool. Like, he is eventually revealed to be a hero that helped save the lunar realm and is technically a celestial and like is part of like the god of moons and things like that. And like he is trying, but he's also kind of a trickster. So he can't give you anything straight. He has to give it to you in like ridiculous prose and tells you. And at first you're not sure if he's a villain or not, but he does end up being a good guy and help you out. And it turns out that Amaterasu and Waka are actually really good friends at the end of the thing once Ami's kind of completely recovered her memory and knows what's going on. And then you discover that the guy who accidentally released Orochi, because he was like, I'm the best, not this guy, was actually the ancestor to Nagi, the original hero, whose name is Susanoo, and he had pulled the sword out because he's an idiot. And he wanted to prove to his girlfriend that he was the best, who is Kushi. And so he was like, I'm gonna be the best. And then he screwed it up for everyone. And then Amaterasu had to show up and fix the stuff. And Susanoo is that type that's like, I'm this great hero. I'm the best. And I'm the best fighter ever. And then the second anything happens, he's like off hiding in the corner, like, don't hurt me. And you're like, you're terrible. But he does get better. He does discover the power of friendship and bravery.
Oh, the power of friendship works every time.
It works 80% of the time. It works every time. And so then they are able to remove Orochi's curse slowly throughout Nippon. They meet the Moon Tribe. They meet a tribe of wolf-type people. They can change. They're not quite werewolves, but they can, in fact, turn into wolves. So more like shapeshifters who specifically only turn into dogs. Okay. Which 7-year-old me wanted to be real bad because I just wanted to be a dog all the time.
I feel like every 7-year-old goes through that time period.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're either like really into horses or you're really into dogs and wolves. And I was a dog wolf kid. And you know what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm. I was never a horse kid, always dog kid.
Mm-hmm. I was briefly a horse kid, and then I decided dogs were better. And so basically it's, you fight Orochi 3 different times. You fight him the first time once you've cleared the area of Nippon from his, influence, and you fight him and then you kick his butt and win with all of the celestial, brush god's powers. And then you go back in time and then you fight him again because the actual time that Ami won was like right now. So you do some stuff and then Orochi pulls some nonsense and like puts a curse on you that puts you back in time. So then you get to see Nagi and that whole spiel. And it turns out that the white wolf that everyone thought was Orochi's general was actually Amaterasu being forced back in time to deal with this issue again. And then, because this game wasn't long enough, when you come back, Orochi had sent you back in time to gain some time to recover, and you have to fight him one more time on the celestial plane. Ooh. So on like this floating like moon rock thing, and that's where Waka comes in to try to help you, and then you end up fighting Orochi, but the fight is basically the same. Like, there's like 8 different heads because he's this like 8-headed snake monster, and then you have to like chop off all the heads as you go. Mm-hmm. But it was very, very fun. It's a little bit repetitive. There are a multitude of dog puns in this game, which I loved greatly. One of my favorites is the name of the game itself, Okami, means like God, but it also, the way the kanji is written means white wolf. So it's literally a pun for wolf god. Which cracked me up, and it took me longer than I care to admit to learn that one, but it's cool. And then there's a bunch of different references, like the brush gods are all the zodiacs. I believe there's 13, so there's the 12 zodiacs plus the cat, and they have Because the cat can't be part of the Zodiac,
Yeah.
which is a whole plot of Fruits Basket.
I almost brought Fruits Basket for this, but I did not.
I was going to laugh really hard if you brought Fruits Basket for this, because I was like, this is very similar.
I know, I almost did.
Reference to it. One day one of us will talk about Fruits Basket, I'm sure. And yeah, it's quite fun. It's quite silly. It got adapted from the Wii and to the PlayStation 2, and I believe it's on the Nintendo Switch now. And they made a sequel called Okami Den, which is about Amateratsu's son, who I think is literally named Chibi Teratsu. So like tiny Amaterasu. And it follows him just trying to get back because he accidentally fell out of the celestial plane, and he's just trying to get back to the celestial plane. And it's very cute, and the characters are very lovable and goofy, and it's at the time, the map was like one of the biggest maps they had ever undergone, specifically Capcom had ever looked at. And it had like a bunch of different areas that were all, they didn't require air quotes loading screens where you could walk from Kamiki Village all the way to like the big boat place, which probably has a name that I can't remember off the top of my head, but, so it was a very large undertaking for the time. And it's beautiful. Everything looks like it's drawn like, with like brushstrokes and things like that. The story, when they give you cutscenes, it comes out on like a roll of rice paper. So like it looks like someone like drawing out what was happening and like describing the story to you. The original was meant to look more realistic with the cutscenes just being drawn, but then they ended up just keeping the drawn style throughout. And I honestly think that it works really well because the game is very iconic and very recognizable, and you could see like one scene from it and know it was this game because not a lot is designed this way. The sound design's really beautiful. It's just a really gorgeous game as well. And also you get to play as a dog. So like 10 out of 10 there.
Have you played the new game that I've seen out called Stray?
Yes. Oh my God. It's so much fun.
Where it looks like you play like a cat?
Mm-hmm. You are a cat. And you are a cat walking through a post-apocalyptic world, and there's robot people, and you get to do cat things. There's a literal dedicated meow button, and you can just meow at things, and things will react based on you meowing at them.
Oh, that's cute.
It's so cute. You can jump up on like a keyboard and accidentally type something into a computer. You can knock stuff off of buildings with your paw and just mess with people. One robot you can actually like trip if you like weave in through his legs. They did very well with like making you feel like you're actually a cat. It's like 4 hours long and very short.
That's not too long.
No, it's very short. It's very intuitive. It's very user-friendly. Like, if you've never played a video game before, this is a good one to play because it's very simple in its design, and it's very clever in its design because you don't have to aim for things. It just gives you like a prompt. Like, if you want to jump up on that thing, just press X, and then the cat will like smoothly jump up on there, and there's no like aiming that you have to do.
Oh, that's very nice. So what's the point?
It is telling you, it's very similar to a lot of indie games where they are telling you a story without a lot of dialogue and you're just absorbing the world. This one's like what happened to the people after apocalyptic event. And so your cat you actually start off with a couple other cats, and then you fall down like a tube or something. Like there's a bunch of pipes and stuff that you were like working your way through on the upper side of a city, and then you fall down into the slums, and then you're trying to get back to your cat friends. That's the like 4-second plot for the cat specifically, and then the rest of it is you learning about what happened to the world, what's going on. The robots that you see, I'm pretty sure were absorbed, like there was like an AI like some kind of pandemic happened and you couldn't leave your house, otherwise you'd die. So people got into their computers really hard, and then they started uploading their mental processes into a robot. So then the people that are walking around are actually like the downloaded brains of people. I'm not 1,000% sure on that one, but that's where I'm guessing based on my genre savvy. And I've only played like the first 2.5 hours of the game, so I cannot confirm, but also do recommend. Anytime you get to have a dedicated meow button, 10 out of 10.
Well, I'm so sorry to derail us from dogs
fine.
to talk about cats. Do you have
It's all good.
bark button?
You do have a bark button.
Okay,
in
see,
Okami.
good.
It's a dedicated bark button. There is also, you, like many dogs who find things that they need to pee on, there is a pee on it button as well in Okami.
Oh no.
They did very well with capturing, like, the energy of dog in this game. Like, important plot events will be happening, and then everyone will turn to Amy and be like, what do you think? And she's just, like, passed out on her back taking a nap. And you're like, all right, fair enough. It's like, I don't have time for this. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Nice.
Let me know when I gotta fight something. And yeah, it's beautiful. I love this game. I like when there's like a connection to animals in a game and have it like have the fun and goofy side of it too, and not have to always be like the super serious like first person shooter type games. I like the open world explorers that let you learn the story kind of on your own through like it being more character driven. The combat in this game is okay. I think there's like 4 or 5 different celestial weapons that you can have. There's like a shield thing that Amy can throw off of her back through her magic powers, a sword, and something else. And I remember cheesing it a lot, and if you had the sword, you could just spam one button and then throw people into walls, and then they couldn't attack you back. So then you could get through combat really fast and then go back to the fun part, which was running around being a dog.
Yes, the fun part. I mean, is there any option in the game where you don't have to do combat?
No, you do have to fight. Like, there's... because Orochi sends out his minions, and they're terrorizing people, and they're, like, demon-like things. So you have to protect the people of Kamichi Village. You have to protect the people that you run into later. They go around and they like are trying to destroy towns and things. So it is the good versus evil, like trying to stop Orochi's minions from killing other people or destroying the town or like sucking the world into darkness. So the combat is at least pertinent in that regards, that you're defending people from evil. But I don't know.
But it's not just like a open world kind of thing where you can avoid your responsibilities. So they charge at you when they see you. Because you could look down and be like, I don't want to fight you, and try to like skirt around them, but they'll see you and like come booking after you. And you're like, no, I don't want to. And then it kind of like Pokemon style at the time, because 2007, it like traps you into like a ring where you have to then go one-on-one with the guys until they're all dead, and then you get out of the ring and then you keep going with wherever you were gonna go. And you can't really run away from them. There's no like escapes. So he attack, but most importantly, he is forced to fight back.
Exactly. Amaterasu is a good girl.
Oh, girl, I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness. I feel so bad.
It's okay. I don't think she cares.
Misgendered the cartoon dog.
I mean, I think she's supposed to be after the sun god Amaterasu in Japanese lore, which I think is traditionally female. So, question mark?
Wait, did you say what kind of dog this is?
She's like a white wolf, technically.
Oh, yeah, you did say that. I was going to say she's like a Shiba Inu.
No.
Or like a Japanese Chin.
Her son, the chibi one, it looks like a Shiba Inu, though.
Yay!
And he's so cute. I love him a lot. And so Amy's got like that big dog deep boof. And when you play as Chibateratsu, he's like, burr, And it's so cute. I die.
That's adorable. That's very good.
Okay, so I only have one question for you.
Okay. I think we just had some trivia just now as well, so that's good.
I did drop some trivia, and we had a whole aside about a different video game.
Yeah, so it's okay. We can only do one question.
It's all good.
It's fine.
Okay, so Okami was originally released for the Wii, and the cover art in America had something wrong with it. What was it? The name was spelled wrong. It had the wrong ESRB rating on it. It had left the watermark for a different gaming company on it, or Amaterasu was upside down.
I feel like they wouldn't make a mistake to make Amaterasu upside down. That doesn't seem right. I think maybe a watermark that was wrong? Yeah?
Yeah. So Capcom had apparently lost the original cover art, so they took a screenshot of IGN's one of Okami, which had IGN like next to her mouth, and then they like colored it in. But they didn't do a good job, and if you look at it, you can see IGN written like right by her mouth, and then like the words for Capcom are at like the bottom of the box. And like you would think that if they were going to put their name on it, they should have just like plastered Capcom over the IGN and just had like Okami Ami barking out Capcom, not IGN.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. I bet that they could correct that now in, like, subsequently sold copies.
I think it's better now, I would assume. I haven't actually looked at, like, the Nintendo Switch's cover art for it, but I would hope by now it has been resolved, 10 years later?
Hopefully. Wait, didn't you say it was 2007? 15 years later.
Shh. That's not real. Shush.
I'm sorry, I only know that because the thing I'm bringing is also from 2007.
Okay, alright. Oh, it just hurts a little bit. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. Time continues to move on, and we continue to get existential in this podcast.
Okay. Maybe we should save us from ourselves, and I'll give you a quote instead.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay. I had a really hard time finding a quote that actually said the word constellation. So it's just like alluding to the fact that there are constellations.
I think that's fair and valid.
Cool, thanks. It's also two people talking to each other.
Okay.
We'll see if I do different voices. I might not, because I might accidentally slip into the character voices.
All right. I'm game for that. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, I don't think I'd be able to the whole time. It's a little bit long as well. It's awful. I'm so sorry.
We got this.
Okay, here we go. All right. Over there, that's Throwback, the only ogre ever to spit over 3 wheat fields. Hey, can you tell my future from these stars? Well, the stars don't tell the future. They tell stories. Look, there's Bloodnut the flatulent. You can guess what he's famous for. All right, I know you're making this up. No, look, there he is. And there's a group of hunters running away from his stench. Ah, that ain't nothing but a bunch of little dots.
Okay. I have a guess.
Maybe if I did it in character voices, which maybe I'll do at the end, it would come to you if you don't know the answer.
Okay. I have 2 guesses.
Okay. That's good.
So, we might know things. We might not know things.
Sounds good.
If you know things, tweet at us or talk to us on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. Those are the things. At hashtag Nerd of the Week or hashtag NOTWP or at Nerd of the Week. And we would love to hear from you. Update, the squirrel has left the screen in case you were worried about him. He jumped off.
I was so worried. Oh, thank God. Okay. I am now at peace.
All right. Tell me about the thing that you also brought from 2007.
Okay, so this is a whole bunch of coincidences. So it's from 2007, just like yours was. It's the second Neil Gaiman piece of media that I'm bringing to the podcast. And it's also the second thing that stars Mark Strong that I'm bringing to the podcast.
Heck yeah. Okay.
So this is Stardust, the movie.
Oh, yes.
Not the book.
I love Stardust.
Oh my gosh, I love it too. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so fun.
Oh my gosh. So I rewatched it in preparation for this, which I don't always do, but this time I did. And it just reminded me, it's so good. Just so good. So I experienced it in book form first, but the book would have taken me too long to read. So we're getting movie version of it, but it's okay because Neil Gaiman had a lot of hands-on with the writers. So he approves it. He loves it.
As he usually does. Yeah. He usually like shows up and is like, I'm going to be contributing to this because it's my thing.
He also only gives the rights to people that he trusts.
Valid.
To make them good or to let him help. So I think that
this makes sense.
Yeah. So this has a lot of famous people, and I'll probably try and name drop them as I'm going through, but we'll see if I remember or not. So it starts off with actually, oh gosh, who's his name? Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
As the narrator. He never actually shows up in the film, but he just narrates.
That's okay. As long as we get to hear the amazing voice of Ian McKellen, I'm never mad about it.
Yeah, so they got him. And it starts with a quote of, "Are we human because we gaze at the stars? Or do we gaze at the stars because we are human?" He says, "That's a silly question, though. Really what we should be asking is, do the stars gaze back?" And that's kind of the whole premise for all of this. And it never really mentions Constellation directly, but again, we're talking about, like, stars, like, characters up in the sky, basically. Or people up in the sky. So after that little introduction, we see a young country lad named Dunstan Thorne who wants to cross the wall. He lives in this old country town in England called Wall, called that because of the wall that is guarded 24 hours a day by a guard to apparently keep people out of the realm that's the portway, the portal, there we go, in the wall.
All right, I feel better because words are hard today.
We're so hard. So Dunstan, he's going up and trying to cross the wall, and the guard says, "No, you can't. For hundreds of years, we've kept watch here so that no one can cross the wall." And Dunstan says, "So, okay, I guess I'll just go home then." And the guard says, yes, give your best to my father. And the guard's like kind of this older guy, like he doesn't seem like he moves very fast. So after he like turns his back when Dunstan's walking back up the hill, Dunstan turns around and sprints through the portal before the guard can stop him. And boom, he's crossed the wall. Haha. When he's there, he goes through forest and then reaches this market town where there's like this night market that's sprung up, and he sees all sorts of exotic things. Like there's a jar full of eyeballs that look at him, and then there's these like little miniature elephants in a cage. And then he catches sight of this very beautiful woman, and there's this old witch that kind of like looks him up and down and is like, "I don't deal with time wasters." And then she talks to this beautiful girl at the stall, and she says, "You tend to the shop. I'm going to the pub for a drink." So I don't know why the witch decided to leave her alone with this guy that she's already pegged as being a time waster. Also, what does she mean by that? But whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So what she sells at the stall are flowers. And each flower has, like, a different enchantment on it and, like, will do different things. And so Dunstan, he's, like, dumbfounded by the beauty of this girl. And she's like, "You see anything that you like?" And he says, yes. Like, just looking right at her. And he's like, "Blue." Because she's wearing a blue dress. And he's like, oh, what I mean, the blue flowers. And like he's trying to like pay for them. She's like, "It might be the color of your hair, or it might be all of your memories before you were 3, but don't buy the blue ones. I'll tell you what, you buy this one." And she brings out a snowdrop flower, which is like a little white thing, and she says, "This one will bring you luck." And he says, "How much does that one cost?" And she says, "Just a kiss." And she like puts it into his lapel and like points to her cheek, and so he like leans in to kiss her cheek, but then she turns so that they have a nice lip kiss.
Oh man.
Oh man. Oh boy.
What a strange currency this is.
Indeed, yes. And of course they both were kind of liking that. And then the girl like kind of looks over to the pub and she says, I think she's gone. Come with me. And like is trying to pull Dunstan into the caravan. And as they're walking, Dunstan like sees this chain that's attached to her ankle. And she like kind of seems embarrassed that he saw it. And she says, I'm actually a princess who was tricked into being a slave for that witch. Will you try and liberate me? And he says, oh, surely, of course. So he takes the chain and his knife and like splits the chain, but it magically like fuses itself back together. And she says, you see, I'll never be free until she's dead. And he says, well, if I can't liberate you, then what do you want from me? And she just like holds out her hand and pulls him into the caravan. So we all know what happens then.
Bow chicka wow wow.
So then the narrator, our lovely Ian, says, and he thought that his wonderful adventure across the wall would soon be forgotten. However, he had a surprise delivered for him 9 months later. So the guard comes with a little basket to his door and says, this was left for you at the wall, Dunstan. And like gives a knowing glance. And Dunstan like looks in the basket and it's this little baby. And he's like all happy about it. He's not like, oh my God, what do I do with this baby? He's like, oh, it's for me. It's a baby. Like, he's real excited about it and just, like, so charming that he's like, yeah, it's my responsibility now. Okay, cool. And
that's good, at least.
Yeah, it's real good. And then, so this little kid, baby, his name is written to be Tristan. And obviously we know that it came from the poor slave girl. And we intuit that she was not allowed to keep him, so hence he got sent off to his father at the wall. Perfect. So Tristan grows up into a young man, and we see that he is walking through town. He's throwing pebbles at a girl's window. The girl is Victoria, and she opens the window, and she says, Humphrey? And he says, no, it's me, Tristan. And she's like, oh, hello, Tristan. What do you want? And then Tristan had, like, a bouquet of flowers for her. Just then, like, someone takes their saber or, like, thin sword, rapier. I don't know what it is. A very thin sword. And just, like, slashes the tops off them and says, oh, I'm sorry, were those for Victoria? And it's this guy, Humphrey, who is actually, like, dating Victoria. Like, Tristan has no chance at all with this girl. These other two are, like, basically a couple. And Tristan picks up a stick and like tries to fence with Humphrey, but he has a stick and Humphrey has a little sword, and it repeatedly just like non-lethally pushes him to the ground. And Victoria and her friends who are up in her bedroom are just like giggling at it, and she's like, are you all right, Tristan? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And we can tell, like, he's not hurt, just his feelings are hurt.
Just his ego and his feelings.
Yeah.
I think Humphrey's played by Henry Cavill, right? And that just is wild to me. It's Geralt of Rivia fighting Daredevil. Anyway.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the other things he's in, but yes. Oh, no.
It's okay.
So then the next day, Tristan is at work. He works for the grocer, and he's, like, helping someone already. And Victoria just, like, comes in, cuts the whole line, and starts ordering things like, I need a pound of flour and a pound of sugar. And she's like, oh, and by the way, Tristan, I'm so sorry about last night. That was so rude of Humphrey. And it's like, Victoria, you're being rude right now, cutting the line.
Right.
But Tristan, like, completely brushes this off because he is so smitten with her. And she's like, and now you may walk me home. So basically having him carry all her groceries home.
Rude.
And I don't think that this is really part of his job description. He just kind of leaves, and you can see that his boss, the grocer, is, like, very annoyed by this. A few hours later, we can into it. He's standing in front of his mirror at home, trying to, like, come up with words to say to his father. He is, like, testing out, like, Father, I'm sorry, but I've lost my job. And he's doing this, and his father just, like, walks in, and he's like, "Father?" And his father behind him says, "You lost your job." He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And his dad, like, is not mad at him at all. He's like, "Don't worry about it. You were never cut out to be a shop boy anyway. And I can tell you, everyone who I ever envied when I was growing up, they have terribly boring lives now."
What a chill dad.
I know, right? Like, I think they have a really good, nice relationship. And his dad just kind of supports him in whatever he wants to do, it sounds like.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "And also, last night didn't really go well with Victoria, Dad, but what should I do?" And they come up with some plan. The plan is that Tristan now goes back to Victoria's house, throws pebbles at her window again. She opens it, and she's like, "Tristan, I explicitly told you not to come." And he says, "Yeah, but I have a surprise for you." And she, like, sighs and closes her window, and Tristan, like, starts walking away, feeling all dejected again. However, Victoria comes out the front door with a coat on. She's like, "My birthday's not for another week, but I still want the surprise." Like, Victoria's
chick.
She is... she's kind of cringy. I don't like her at all.
She's used to being the town beauty in a town of 15 people.
Exactly. Like, she knows she's pretty. And that's all she has going for her, really. So the surprise is that Tristan has set up, like, a moonlit picnic. Like, he has all these, like, candles and fairy lights all around, and he's bought champagne, which apparently Victoria has never had before. But she says, "Oh, this is delicious. I love it." And Tristan's like, "So I lost my job." She's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I heard. What are you going to do now?" And he says, "I think I'm going to travel. I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to leave this town." And she says, "Well, now you sound like Humphrey. He's going to go all the way to Ipswich to buy me a ring."
Oh my
and
God.
Tristan's like, "I'm not talking about Ipswich. I'm talking about, like, Paris or London, really getting out there." And then he stops, like, "Wait, a ring? What?" And she says, "Yeah, rumor has it that he's going to ask me to marry him." And Tristan says, "Are you going to?" And she says, "Well, I can't exactly say no if he's going to Ipswich."
You know.
It's fine.
It's fine.
And so Tristan, like, starts proclaiming his love for her, being like, "But I would go all the way to the gold mines of San Francisco and bring back your weight in gold. Or I'd go to Africa and mine a diamond as big as your hand." And she's, like, flattered by this, but is not buying it. And she says, "It's late. I should get going." He says, "Oh, let's just finish this champagne at least." And she says, "Okay." And just then, we see a shooting star falling from the sky. And she says, "Oh, it's beautiful." And he says, "More beautiful than a ring from Ipswich?" He's really bent out of shape about this.
So salty.
Yeah. And he says, Here, I'll tell you what, Victoria. I will go and retrieve that fallen star for you and bring it back. And if I do, then will you marry me?" And she says, "It's a deal. You have exactly 1 week until my birthday, and if you bring it back, then I will marry you." Which, like, what? Why would she agree to that? What if he actually succeeds and then she's stuck marrying him and she doesn't even like him? Like, it was poor decisions on her part, but also poor Tristan. Being so led on at this point. He's just such a little baby right now. And
you can do better, Tristan.
Yes, you don't need Victoria. You can do better. So then we kind of end their scene. Now we have to introduce some other parties to the plot. The first is the princes of Stormhold. So Stormhold is actually the kingdom that is this fairy realm behind the wall. So the king of Stormhold is on his deathbed, and he has summoned his 4 remaining sons to join him. The sons are all named after their birth order. So right now we have Primus, Secundus, Tertius, and Septimus. Septimus is the youngest one, and he's the one who's played by Mark Strong.
Okay.
Just to continue the name dropping here.
Got it. Okay.
None of the other ones, I don't think they're played by anyone famous.
Okay.
Or at least that I recognize. But anyway. So, apparently, the Stormhold bloodline, usually what happens is all of the princes try and kill each other off before their father dies so that there's only one remaining, so there's no question of who's going to inherit the throne when the father dies.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah, right? Very not good. And their father says, I'm disappointed that there are 4 of you here. I had 12 brothers, and I killed all of them before my father was even sick.
Jesus, this is insane.
Yeah. And also, Secondus was late. And he, like, marches in, like, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for waiting for me. Like, you can tell he's a little bit of a jerk. Mm-hmm. And his father says, Secondus, why don't you go look out the window? Tell me what you see. And he looks out. He's like, I see the kingdom, father. And he's like, anything else? And Secondus is like, my kingdom? And kind of, like, winks at him a little bit. And his father says, why don't you look up? And so Secondus, like, looks up into the sky, like, completely oblivious to anything else around him. The king then, like, nods at Septimus, who, like, rushes over and pushes Secondus out the window, so he dies. Oof. So there we go. Now there's only 3 left. We're narrowing it down. Yeah.
Getting it down there, because there can only be one. This is a Highlander situation.
Exactly. However, we then find that all of the brothers who have already been murdered or are dead, they come back as ghosts, and they have to stay in the world until the next king is crowned, essentially. And then they will be free of their earthly duties or whatever. So Secondus arrives with the ghost troop, and one of the other brothers who is already dead say, well, thanks for murdering me all that time ago, and look at you now, ruler of the kingdom, or not, so a lot of good that did you.
Someone's salty.
Yeah, a little bit. So anyway, then the king decides, well, there's still 3 of you. And I guess he doesn't care if any of these 3 are king. He just really didn't like Secondus, I guess. So he takes off this ruby from around his neck, and he like magically purifies it, so like makes it look like a diamond. And he says only someone with the blood of Stormhold can restore the ruby. And then he like magically shoots it into the sky, and we see it like shooting off into outer space. And then we see a star shooting back towards Earth, like it was knocked out of the sky by the necklace. And it lands somewhere in the kingdom of Stormhold. And so now the princes have to go seek out the stone and be the first one to get it and purify it and restore it back to the ruby. And then that one will be king. And then the king dies.
And become king.
Exactly. And the king dies. That's that. So that's another party that we are interested in who's looking for this star now. And then finally, as that shooting star was coming back down, we see this old witch looking out the window, and she sees the star. She gets all excited about it, and she goes running back in. She wakes up her witch sisters. There's 3 of them in total. The important one who we'll be following, who is the one who was looking out the window, her name is Lamia, and she is played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And, but she looks all old and decrepit first.
Okay.
So anyway, she says, wake up, sisters, there's been a fallen star. And they all, like, jump up and they're like, yes, the fallen star, yay, we've waited centuries for this. Apparently, if they cut out the heart of a fallen star and eat it, it restores their youth. Oh. So they had found a fallen star a long, long time ago, and they only have a little bit of her heart left. So they do some divination. The way they do this is by killing a ferret, which is sad. And they just have cages and cages of different animals. Like there's wolves and ferrets, of course, and baboons and alligators. And they just use them for different divinations and whatnot. Which is sad. But anyway, so they're looking at his intestines, apparently, and they say, it looks like she fell, like, hundreds of miles from here. And they say, let's use the Babylon candle, which is a way of traveling, which we'll explain a bit more later. But unfortunately, they used the Babylon candle last time, so they don't have one anymore. So they have to go by foot. But
single-use items, got it.
Exactly. I think there is actually a few uses per candle, but they had used up all the uses.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So anyway, they decide, well, one of us has to go by foot, and we should use the power from the last star, whatever's left of it, so that we aren't an old hag. when we get there. So we see that they're drawing lots, and apparently whoever gets the heart or the closest organ to the heart gets to be the one who goes and seeks out the star. So they all close their eyes and go digging around for organs. And this poor little dead ferret. Lamia actually opens her eyes so that she can find the heart and cheats, so that she's the one who gets to have the star, the last bit of star that's left, and gets to be beautiful. Indeed, yes. So she becomes all beautiful and fancy-like and admires her body in the mirror. And her sisters are like, they're rolling their eyes at her like, oh my god, come on, get over yourself. So she sets out as well. So those are our 3 interested parties who are looking for the star. It's Tristan, who wants it for Victoria, the princes, who want it for the necklace that they think it has, and then the witches, who want it for their beauty and youth. So Tristan, he knows he has to cross the wall. So he tries to pull the same stunt that his dad did. And he goes to the guard and he says, I need to cross the wall. And the guard says, nope, you have to go back, just like someone else did. And Tristan's like, what? Who? Someone else? He doesn't know that he was born on the other side of the wall. No one's told him that. Yeah.
It seems like a key detail he should be aware of.
Well, I think his father was keeping it a secret.
Valid, I guess.
So anyway, he tries to pull the same stunt where he like walks a little ways up the hill and goes sprinting back to catch the guard off guard. But the guard like snaps to attention. He has like this guard pole and he like smacks him in the stomach and then like high kicks him in the chin and like sends him falling to the ground. And then at home, Tristan like has this piece of meat on a black eye and his dad's like, what happened to you? Did Humphrey beat you up again? And Tristan says, no, it was the guard at the wall. And Dunstan, he says, he's like 80 years old, though. And Tristan says, yeah, he's had a lot of time to practice now. So apparently,
you could take him, he's old.
Yeah, but he apparently knows karate now, because he got the wool pulled over his eyes the one time.
Oh, that's valid.
Yeah.
Good on the guard for learning stuff after he gets tricked out of the first time.
Exactly. Fool me once, shame on you, but never again. So it's at this point that Dunstan tells Tristan that, yes, he was born over the wall. He actually brings out the little baby basket that he'd been delivered in, and it has a sealed letter in like a little tube that he says, I never opened this, it was addressed to you. Which, good on him for not opening Tristan's mail.
Yeah, valid. Again, chill father for the most part here.
Exactly, except keeping the whole where you were born secret.
You know, that one probably was for some unknown reason, but it's fine.
I guess so. So they read it, and it's a note from his mother, and she's like, I really wanted to keep you, but the master wouldn't let me, so I had to give you up, but I really want to see you again sometime. And Tristan's all happy. He's like, oh my gosh, she could still be alive. And Dunstan's like, I certainly hope so.
Right.
So anyway, the thing that was in the little tube is a Babylon candle. So the letter says, light the candle and think only of me, and it will transport you right to me. And so they light up the candle, and Tristan's holding it, and there's a big flash of light, and he vanishes. He arrives, we see, well, first off, we go into this crater where the star fell, and this is where there's a beautiful woman, played by Claire Danes, laying in the center of the crater. Her leg is kind of cocked at a weird angle because it is broken, unfortunately, from her fall. Oh. And there's this beautiful diamond necklace sitting right next to her, so she grabs it and puts it on her neck. And she's, like, looking around. She tries to, like, hobble up, but she has a broken leg. Honestly, she's not crying, and she can still kind of walk on it. So I'm not sure how it's broken, but is not good still.
Adrenaline's a hell of a thing, too.
I guess so. Yeah, and if she's suddenly found herself not in the sky and suddenly on Earth, like, that would be quite scary. So she's starting to hobble out of this crater when a flash of light comes, and then suddenly she's knocked on the ground, and Tristan has, like, landed on top of her, and he goes, Mother? Like a little baby bird. And she's like, do I look like your mother? And he says, no. She's like, I'm not sure, mother. So he, like, is trying to think, like, how did I end up here then? I was thinking about my mother. Oh, but then I suddenly started thinking of Victoria and the star. The star! Oh, look, I'm in a crater. This must be where the star fell. And so he goes back over to this girl, and he's like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but do you think a star fell here? And she's like, yeah, to be exact, it was shot out of the sky by this random jeweled necklace, and it fell right over there, and then this right here is where it fell when it was hit again by a magical flying moron. Which is one of my favorite lines. So Tristan's like, wait, you're the star? And she's like, yep, I'm the star. And he's like, I didn't realize that you'd be a person. And obviously he didn't realize that. And he says, well, I sincerely apologize for what I'm about to do. He also has a piece of this chain that it was apparently one of the souvenirs that was in his little basket as well. And it was a piece of the chain that had been enslaving his mother to the witch that Dunstan had cut that one time. So it's just this random piece of infinity chain, essentially.
Okay.
He says, I apologize.
We just have it.
We just have it, yeah. It's here.
Got it.
Plot device.
Right.
So he says, I apologize for what's about to happen. He, like, puts this right around her wrist and says, and I believe this means you have to come with me. However, it's nighttime, and she says, I'm not going anywhere with you. He says, okay, and he lays down to sleep. And she's like,
fair enough.
I guess.
All right, this didn't work. I'm going to go to bed.
But the star, whose name is Yvain, she is sitting up, like, trying all night to, like, pull this chain off of her wrist. And eventually she, like, accidentally, like, kind of yanks it really hard, and it wakes up Tristan. He says, don't you ever sleep? And she says, not at night. I'm a star. And he says, okay, well, come on, let's just get going. So they start walking at night, and, like, I don't know why he's making this poor girl walk. She has a broken leg. It's terrible.
Rude.
He's just, like, has no cares in the world. But the way that he convinced her to come with him is he has the other half of the Babylon candle, and that's apparently one use left, essentially. And he says, I'll give it to you after I show you to Victoria, and then you can take yourself back to the sky. And she says, okay, fine, I'll go with you then. So, I mean, she's just going on the basis that she can trust he's gonna do that for her after all this blows over.
I mean, what other choices does she have right now?
I mean, not very many. There's a little scene with the princes where there's, like, a poisoned cup or two, and they accidentally poison the bishop and one of the brothers instead of two of the brothers and not the bishop.
Oh, no.
So anyway, we're down to just two brothers at this point, Prince Primus and Prince Septimus, and so they both head out in their own ways. One little aside in the movie is that Prince Primus always travels just by himself, where Prince Septimus, the seventh son, is himself plus 6 other guys. So he has, like, a posse of 7, essentially.
Okay.
So that's just them.
A little bit mildly egocentric, but it's fine.
A little bit, yeah. Then we also see the witch Lamia. She has acquired a goat. 2 goats, actually. One is a real goat. One is a poor boy who is trying to sell the goat at the market, who she turned into a goat. So she has 2 goats. And they're pulling her little cart, I guess.
Right on.
She comes across the witch who's enslaving Tristan's mother. But she doesn't know anything about Tristan. But she comes across this witch, and she says, mind if I share your meal? And the witch is like, sure. Now, mind telling me what you're doing? And she starts saying, like, oh, well, there's a star that's fallen, and I'm going to find it, and then I'll cut out the heart and eat it. And as she's saying that, she, like, gets all like, I shouldn't be saying this. And she's, like, smelling the food, and she says, you've poisoned me with this truth grass. And the witch is like, well, yeah, I want the star too now. I'm glad you told me. And then she, like, draws herself up to her full height, and she's like, you don't know who you've crossed. And the witch, whose name is Ditchwater Sal, like, not an attractive witch or name.
That's such a amazing name, though. Ditchwater Sal.
But you can just tell what kind of person she is by that name.
But, like, that's how you can just gives so much information in just a name. It's so good.
Yeah, it is very good naming. So she says, well, take a better look at who I am. And her face gets all, like, dark and her eyes glow green. And Ditchwater Sal says, oh my gosh, your dark majesty, I'm sorry. I promise I won't seek out the star. And Lamia curses her to say, you can seek all you want, but you will never perceive her or feel her or smell her or hear her. Like, even if she's standing right in front of her, you will not know she's there. And with that, she leaves.
Oh.
We're gonna go back on to Tristan and Yvain. They're walking through the forest, and Tristan's like, I think I know where I'm going. And Yvain's like, how do you know? And Tristan's like, because we're going north. That's where the wall is. And he looks up in the sky. He's like, even during the day, you can see the North Star. And he's like looking. He's like, he can't see it. Apparently, Yvain was the North Star, and now she's here on Earth. Yeah. So that's kind of constellation-y.
Yeah. Also very important for many people all the time. Yeah. But it's fine if she's just not there.
Yeah, she's just not there. So I guess someone else gets to be the North Star now.
Rip.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the middle of the day. She is so tired, and her leg hurts a lot, so she sits down. Tristan's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I cannot go on anymore. And so Tristan says, fine, I'm going to go on to the next town, see if I can figure out where we're going. I'm going to leave you here. He takes the chain and ties her around a tree so that she doesn't run away. Which, rude.
It's very rude.
But I guess, obviously, he doesn't want her to run away. But, I mean, just, you're tying her to a tree. She can't protect herself. It's terrible.
That just... gold of heart, dumb of brain.
And, yes, total himbo energy. So... Then she wakes up around twilight, and there's, like, rustling in the bushes, and she says, Tristan, is that you? And no one responds. She's like, this is not funny. But it's a unicorn. A unicorn has come to save her, because unicorns only appear to the true, pure of heart females, I guess. I don't know all the rules of unicorns.
I mean, typically they only show to you if you're, like, well-intentioned and a good person.
Yeah. Well, I guess she is well-intentioned for the most part. So anyway, the unicorn goes and, like, is able to cut through the chain, so she is free, and she grabs on top of the unicorn. The unicorn, like, lets her mount it, and then off they go. Tristan soon comes back to the clearing, finds she's gone, says, ugh, I know I never should have let her alone, but now he's very tired, and he wants to sleep, so he lays down at the tree as well. He has a dream where actually the stars in the sky are talking to him, and they say, please take care of our sister, Tristan, you must save her. And they, like, tell her the story of the last star that fell down to Earth, which the witches
the one that got eaten.
Yeah. And they're like, her heart was eaten, and we've never seen her again. Sad.
Well, that's usually what happens when your heart gets eaten, is you don't usually make it after that.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you.
Anyway, they then, since they're stars and they can see the whole world, they tell Tristan where Yvain is going. They say, the unicorn helped her, but now they're unknowingly going into a trap set by a witch, and you must save her. And there's a carriage coming, and you have to get on it by any means necessary. Well, it's the carriage of Prince Primus. And Tristan, he goes sprinting through the woods. Like, this boy can run. And that comes in handy later as well. But for now, he runs, and he, like, sees the carriage. He's not sure how he's going to get on it, so he just, like, launches himself on it, like, runs into the side, and then, like, crumples off to the side of the road. This causes Prince Primus to stop the carriage. He gets out and is like, who are you? Are you working with my brother? And he says, no, I'm not. I don't know who your brother is. I'm unarmed. I just need a lift. And Primus says, no.
Help.
Not happening.
Help.
And Tristan's like, wait, no. But what if it was fate that brought me to you, just like it brought you to me? And Primus says, fine, get on. So there they get on. Meanwhile, Lamia is consulting her runes to see where the star is going. And she's also communicating with her sisters via this, like, little portal ring that they have. It's like a telecommunication magic device. Okay. And she says, I can't figure it out. These runes are telling me gibberish. And so then the sisters, they drag out an alligator so they can do their own divinations there. And with the alligator, they say, it's because you have to stay where you are. She's coming to you. But be careful. Her heart is very broken. It's not shining brightly. So you should restore it. Make her shine before you kill her. And so with that, Lamia decides to enchant the area to make like this fake inn. And she brings the goats, well, the goat who was a human back to being a human. And then the goat who was a goat is now a human.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And he's played by...
Not confusing for the goat at all.
He's played by the guy who plays Mr. Weasley in the Harry Potter movies.
Oh.
Whose name I don't remember. But you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Mark Williams.
Yeah, Mark Williams.
Yeah.
He's a good goat man, let me tell you that.
Mark Williams is a good goat man.
So anyway, they set up this trap. It starts raining just as Yvain and the unicorn are coming over the hill and see it. So they stop at the inn, and Lamia welcomes her, and she says, oh, my dear, come in. You must have a bath and get out of those wet clothes. Don't you worry. So she sits her in a bath, and Yvain is like, she starts glowing. Whenever she like is like feeling good and happy, she does have like this little halo glow around her. Okay. Which is just a fun special effect. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she starts glowing because she's feeling like nice and relieved in the bath. And she's like, oh, finally, someone is taking care of me. And then she's being sent off to bed. And Lamia says, how about if I give you a little massage before bed? So just lay here and close your eyes. And she's like reaching for her knife. When just then, there's a knock on the door. The knock is from Prince Primus and Tristan, who have also arrived at the inn. They don't realize this is where Yvain is. And Tristan says, I'll take the horses around to the stable, and you go inside and get us a room. And so Lamia has to, like, go deal with this. She can't just, like, ignore the customers in front of the star and make her suspicious of anything.
Right.
While Lamia is, like, getting something ready for Primus, like something to drink, Primus gets in the bath that Yvain had already used. He thinks it was like made up for him. And then Yvain is like curious as to what's going on, I guess. So she comes down the stairs wearing only a bathrobe and also the necklace. And Prince Primus, he's one of those guys that just like talks at you and like tells you how great he is.
Ugh.
And this whole time, like, Yvain is just like, oh, I regret coming down here. I'd like to go back upstairs now.
I would like to be out of this situation now, thank you.
And just as she's, like, turning away, he says, wait, your necklace. That's the stone I've been looking for. And he's, like, in the bath, like, with his hand outstretched, like, bring me the stone.
Give to me.
Yes. Now, at this point, Billy the innkeeper, quote, innkeeper, which is just the goat man, he was sent to take a beverage to Tristan, which is poisoned wine. The unicorn was also in the stable, though, and realizes that it was poisoned wine, and knocks it out of his hand, and Tristan sees that it, like, burns the grass, or the hay that was on the stable floor, and he's like, oh my gosh, they're trying to kill us. So he goes running into the inn, he's like, Prince Primus, don't touch anything, they're trying to kill us! Just then, Lamia has slit his throat with the glass knife. So now Primus is dead.
Rip.
Oops. But then Tristan, of course, sees Yvain. The unicorn
Goodbye,
comes.
not Mark Strong.
No. Oh, wait, yeah, not Mark Strong. Sorry.
All I know is there was Mark Strong and not Mark Strong competing for the things,
right.
and now
this is not Mark Strong. You're right. So just Mark Strong left. So Tristan grabs Yvain's like, we have to get out of here. The unicorn like bursts through the door as well to try and defend them. Unfortunately for the unicorn, I don't know exactly what happens to it, but Lamia like engulfs it in flame. So I think maybe the worst happens to it, unfortunately.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. But she also like encloses flames around Yvain and Tristan. Tristan then pulls the Babylon candle out of his pocket and he says, think of home, and sticks his hand into the fire with the candle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah. Himbo moments.
Yeah, he's got a lot. They then materialize on a cloud in a thunderstorm. And they start yelling at each other, and Tristan's like, what are we doing here? And she's like, because you told me to think of home, so I thought of my home, and you thought of yours, and now we're halfway in between them. And Tristan's like, well, why would you think of your home? You obviously should have thought of mine. Like, come on, Tristan, really?
Right.
Really? And then just then, they get captured by a net and pulled onto this flying pirate ship that is manned by a crew of lightning pirates. And their captain is Captain Shakespeare, who is Robert De Niro.
Yes, I forgot Robert De Niro was in this movie.
Yes. And so he's like, take him to the brig. And so the pirates take him down to the brig, and they're like, they're gonna kill us, aren't they? Mm-hmm. They have a little touching conversation, and Yvain is like, tell me more about Victoria. And Tristan's like, well, there's not much more to tell. And Yvain, like, kind of nods, like, okay, cool. Yeah, well, the one thing I know about love is that it's unconditional. So what's she doing to prove she loves you? And Tristan's like, nothing.
Looking cute.
Looking like a snack. And so, it's kind of a little seed planted in his head. We then later snap on to Captain Shakespeare coming down into the brig, and he's like interrogating them. He's like, where do you think you're going? And who is this girl? And Tristan lies and is like, she's my wife. And Captain Shakespeare says, well, on my boat, it's share and share alike. And all the pirates are like listening on the door, and they're like, yeah. And then Tristan says, we're just trying to get back to Wall in London. And Shakespeare says, in England. He says, in England. Now that's one lie too many. And then we snap back to the pirates on the deck, and we see what looks to be Tristan being thrown out the window. And then Captain Shakespeare brings up Yvain, kind of like pushing her ahead of him, and is like, and now we're going into my quarters, and don't anyone come bother me for the next few hours. And slams the door behind him. And the first mate says, you heard him, the captain's busy, and so should you be. So they all go off. We then get back into the captain's quarters, and Tristan is there. Hooray!
Hooray! And he didn't die.
Yeah, he didn't die. He's only in his underwear right now, but he didn't die. And then he says, How did they believe that? And Captain Shakespeare's like, with a mannequin, works every time. So through their talking, we get that he's kind of fruity, and also that he is like a fanboy for England. He's not from England or anything. He just has heard of it, and he's like, I want to go there someday.
I remember this scene so well.
Yes.
Because it's like, you just don't expect Robert De Niro to just turn into that character.
Exactly. So he like has this huge walk-in closet with all these like really fancy pieces of clothing. And he like lets Yvain choose whatever dress she wants. And Tristan, he like picks out this really fancy suit for him. And to like convince the pirates of who they all are, Tristan is going to masquerade as De Niro's nephew. Okay. De Niro gives him a makeover. He already had kind of short hair, and in one scene we see he's not De Niro, he's Captain Shakespeare, whatever. We know
what you meant.
Like trimming his hair, and then we like flash over to Yvain talking about something, and then the next time we flip back to the salon chair, he has like really long hair that's like past his shoulders, and he's like looking at it like, what? How did this happen? It's just really silly. But anyway, he like kind of takes on a suave buccaneer kind of look, or swashbuckler kind of look, you know.
Yeah,
he looks,
swashbuckler.
He looks cool now, essentially.
He looks like every person at a Ren fair.
Mm-hmm. He's got like kind of longer hair now. It's not, they actually trimmed it back from where it had been in the one funny scene, but it had to get long first so that they could trim it to the appropriate length. Anyway, so they hit land. They're trying to sell off the lightning that they had gotten, and they go into this little like a dealer's office, I guess. The dealer's name is Ferdy, and he is played by Ricky Gervais, and he improv'd most of his lines.
Heck yeah, that's amazing.
They have this barter scene where Ricky Gervais actually comes out not on top, which I think is kind of out of character for him. But I guess good for Robert De Niro. He won the lightning battle.
Yeah.
And then Ferdy takes Captain Shakespeare like over into a corner. Also, Yvain is kind of just like wandering around at this point. They had taken her ashore with them. And Ferdy's like, I've heard there's a star. You know, if you find the star, we could be rich. We could retire right now. And Captain Shakespeare like kind of glances over at Yvain and he's like, I've not heard or seen of a star. Just then, Ditchwater Sal comes in. She apparently has some dealings to do with Ferdy as well. She knows Captain Shakespeare. They have like a little like, hey, nice to see you kind of thing. And Captain Shakespeare's like, we gotta get going though, bye. And the crew heads back on to the ship. There, Tristan is now just sitting on the deck. And the pirates like grab their weapons. They're like, ah. And Captain Shakespeare's like, no, stand down. This is my nephew. He's going to be accompanying us on the ride back. So that's how...
It's fine. Everything's fine. He's cool.
Exactly. And that's how they pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Captain Shakespeare, it's all about keeping up his reputation, essentially. So basically there's a glow-up that happens where... he teaches Yvain the piano and how to waltz and, like, all these fun things. He helps Tristan to improve his swordsmanship and, like, be a strong man. And just overall, like, I guess they're better people for it. I think they were only on the ship for, like, 2 or 3 days. But, you know, total transformation. It's great. Yay! Then as they're disembarking, Captain Shakespeare whispers something to Tristan, gives him a little... like container of lightning. He's like, use this if you need it. And they go marching on their way. He's like, here's the road. You're gonna go to Wall. It's 60 miles. And they're like, yay. It's all good. Meanwhile, Lamia is getting more and more frustrated and is using more and more magic and getting older and older appearing. However, her sisters contact her and say, she's headed towards Wall, and if you go through the swamps, you'll be able to apprehend her before she gets across the wall. So Lamia's on her way there. Tristan and Yvain, they're walking down the road, and there's this one super cute scene. It's adorable and just warms the cockles of my heart, where there's this carriage coming, and Tristan just, like, pushes Yvain down into a ditch and, like, lands on top of her again. And she's like, are you trying to break my leg again? He's like, no, I don't trust anyone. I don't want anyone to see you. And then while they're just, like, waiting for the carriage to go by, they have this, like, cute little talk, and, like, they could kiss, but they don't. Mm-hmm. It's really sad. But she says...
dramatic tension.
I know. And Yvain says something like, are you tempted? And Tristan says, for what? And he, like, kind of starts getting closer to her face. And she says, for eternal life. And he says, I think it'd be kind of boring, honestly, unless you had someone to spend it with.
Oh,
yeah, it's so sweet. And she's, like, glowing this whole time, and it's so cute. And he's just, like, such a good guy now. Ah, I love it.
He had growth.
Yes, indeed. They then, like, come to a marker, and it's like, the Wall, 60 miles this way. She's like, how long will that take? And he says, about 2 days. And Yvain's like, but Victoria's birthday is tomorrow. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. Good job remembering that. Lucky for them, though, they come across Ditchwater Sal again. She's just everywhere.
She just appears when you need her.
Remember, though, she cannot see Yvain at this point because of the curse. She can see Tristan. And he says, hey, can you take us to the Wall? And she says, sure, I can. But then she sees the flower, the snowdrop on his lapel. She's like, I've been looking for that for years. Give it back. And she steals it. Apparently, it was a protection charm, not really a luck charm, but it was protecting him from different spells. So now, she's able to turn him into a mouse. Yay!
No!
So, honestly, I think it was the best way for him to travel, because there's not much room in the caravan. She puts him in a little cage, and gives him some bread and cheese, and it's all good.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. While he's a mouse, Yvain talks to him. It's like, I actually do know a lot more about love than I said I did, because I've watched thousands of years of people falling in love, and, sometimes it's really complicated, but Tristan, I think I love you. And he's a mouse this whole time, and it's so cute.
Squeak.
And they get to the town. She turns him back into a human. She's like, there you are, just as I promised, but you're going to be really weak. You should probably sleep this off. There's the inn over there.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as he, wakes up from slightly passing out and Yvain is there, he's like, Victoria! She says, ugh, I would have preferred mother. So she drags him over to the inn. They get a room, whatnot. She's been taking another bath. I think she's found out she likes him.
Baths are good.
Yeah, nice and relaxing. She's glowing again. Tristan wakes up from his nap and, comes and, peers behind this little screen that's, shielding off the bathroom. And she says, Tristan, stop, don't look. And he's like, I'm sorry, and, turns his head. She, comes out in the bathroom again. She's like, okay, you can look now. And he's like, I heard everything that you said in the caravan, and I love you too. And it's just, so cute. And, it's, not super dramatic, but, so sincere and just so well done. And I love it so much. It's so good. So, the next morning, when Yvain wakes up, Tristan isn't there. He had tried to leave a message with the innkeeper, but the message that is delivered to Yvain by the innkeeper, because when Tristan was talking to him, he was really sleepy and not paying much attention. So what he tells Yvain is, he's sorry, but he's gone to see Victoria because he's found his true love and wants to spend forever with her.
Oh, no.
Yvain doesn't realize that she's the true love, even though Tristan literally said, I love you.
He could have written the note better, though.
Well, the innkeeper refused to give paper to him.
Oh.
So, in fairness, not his fault. He tried his best.
Okay.
He could have also just woken her up and told her the plan, but whatever. Before she woke up and before he left, he cut off, a little piece of her hair and wrapped it up in an envelope, and that's what he's gonna go present to Victoria. It's like, look, I found the star, but you can't see all of her, and I'm gonna go back and live in the wall now.
Like a perfectly sane person.
Exactly. So he marches into town, he picks up a pebble and is gonna throw it at her window, but then thinks better of it, because he's a grown man now. He goes and knocks on the door instead. She comes out and she's like, oh, wow, Tristan, hi. And he's like, I found the star for you, and shows her, the envelope, and she's like, it's awfully small, though. And she's like, but, it's not the star I want anyway. And then she, kind of hugs him, and he, gallantly, dips her down, and he's like, I know exactly what you want. And she says, you do? And he says, yes, you want to grow up and get over yourself. And he drops her unceremoniously on the ground. And just then Humphrey comes across. He's like, do you have a death wish, Tristan? And then Tristan, pulls out his fancy new sword and, swings it around. And Humphrey's like, oh, I see. Okay. And Tristan's like, don't worry, Humphrey. She's all yours. You guys are the perfect couple. And
enjoy life together.
Enjoy life. While she's on the ground, she opens up the envelope and is like, why would I want this anyway? It's just a little pile of stardust. And so Tristan takes the envelope and, dumps out, and instead of it being the lock of hair that he cut, it is just, sparkly dust. He says, oh no, she can't cross the wall. And so now his sprinting skills are put to the test again. He books it through town. This boy is running a 100-meter dash the whole time, and it is more than 100 meters. He gotta go fast. Seriously, he is going fast. Yvain, she wakes up, she's all sad, she's going through the market. She goes towards the wall, I think, to hopefully find Tristan, but she's just in a daze, not really paying attention. She passes the slave girl and Dishwater Sal's caravan. The slave girl sees her and is like, oh god, she's going to the wall. This isn't okay. So she says, wait. But Yvain, in her own world, doesn't pay attention. So the slave girl locks Dishwater Sal into the caravan while she's asleep and just hi-ya with the horses and goes through the town to try and intercept her at the wall. Just as Yvain, the slave girl, and Dishwater Sal and Lamia all arrive at the wall together. Tristan's not there yet. He is not going to make it in time for what's about to happen. So Dishwater Sal's like, why are you pursuing me? And Lamia's like, because you have the star here. And Dishwater Sal's like, I don't see the star, blah, 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 and just, like, going off. And Lamia just, like, zaps her head into smithereens. And her body's just, like, running around with its head cut off for a second until it, like, falls onto the ground and evaporates. So now, the slave girl is free because Dishwater Sal is finally dead. However, Lamia has another infinity chain and wraps it around both of them. She's like, I need the star, and you can come along too. So they get into the carriage, and they're heading back to Lamia's castle. Just then, Septimus also runs by, or just as they're leaving, essentially. He doesn't encounter them. Sorry, I said that badly. Septimus does not encounter them, but he sees the aftermath of what happened, and he's like, gotta go fast. So he's also on a horse and going towards Lamia's castle. Finally, Tristan comes, and the guard is, like, packing up his things and leaving. He's like, all this time, I thought I was keeping people from crossing the wall into there, but I should have been realizing I was keeping things from crossing the wall to here, and I've had enough of this. And Tristan's like, but what happened? And the guard, like, doesn't tell him. However, conveniently, Ditchwater Sal's caravan and the horse is still there. So Tristan takes the horse and is now on the run towards the lair as well. So everyone's going back there. We get to the castle. We have the slave girl, Evine, and Lamia all get out. They go meet up with the sisters. Preparations are being made to cut out Evane's heart. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Tristan's looking in the window trying to figure out what he can do, and then Septimus comes up and holds a knife to his throat, and he has, like, sevens all over his clothes, like in his buttons, and it's, like, embroidered Roman numeral 7 into his vest, and he has a tattoo 7 on his hand. So Tristan immediately knows who he is, and he says, Septimus, I knew your brother. And Septimus is like, yeah, but who are you? And what are you doing here? And then Tristan says, I could ask you the same thing, and is holding a knife to his stomach. And Septimus says, okay. So they both, like, are at a stalemate. They don't kill each other. And he's like, all right, we have to work together. There's 4 of them. And Tristan is like, how can I trust you? And Septimus says, you can't. But you have no other choice, do ya?
This is your option.
I'm your option, yeah. So they storm through the doors. They're attacking the witches. Chaos ensues. The slave girl is suddenly going to be attacked and killed by Septimus, but when she spins around, he says, wait, Una? Apparently, she, as we said earlier, she's a princess who was tricked into being a slave girl. She is Princess Una, who is sisters to all of the numbered brothers. However, she couldn't inherit the crown because she's a woman, and that's not how it works, apparently. So anyway, her life is spared. Great. One of the 3 witches gets a knife, like, shot through her, and she gets pinned to the wall and dies. Yay, great. Lamia then has, like, a little voodoo doll, and she, like, breaks its limbs, and it, like, breaks Septimus's limbs, and then she throws it into this fountain, this water fountain, and him, like, in midair, like, floats like he's floating in water, and he drowns, even though he's not in water, but his voodoo doll was. So now, all the princes are dead, but they can't figure out why they're still there, because they're all ghosts. Like, the ghosts are still there.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, well, what do we do now? How do we get out of here? And we don't know. Just gotta live with each other now.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Exactly. Tristan then is able to kill the other witch, but not Lamia. And then he, like, gets up to the dais where they have this, like, sacrificial table, and Lamia's about to cut off her heart, and then she, like, stops. She looks at the destruction around her. She throws the knife down and starts crying. She says, just go. This youth and beauty and power, it's meaningless now. I've lost everything. You've taken everything from me. Just go. And so Tristan and Evane start leaving. And just as they reach the door, she starts cackling and slams the door in their face and is like, haha, no, never mind. I always wanted you just for myself. This is all part of the plan. You've done it all for me. So she starts, like, dropping chandeliers and having windows explode on them. And just when they have, like, nowhere else to turn and she has the knife and she's about to cut out Yvain's heart, Yvain hugs Tristan and says, "Close your eyes." And he says, "Oh, okay, what are we gonna do here?" And she says, what do stars do best?" And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, "They shine." And so then she, like, shines really, really brightly, and her shining basically, like, incinerates Lamia, and she dies. So yay, now they're actually free. Yay! So then Una, she had been, like, sent outside so that she's not part of the fray. She comes back in. She's like, "Yay, you guys survived, hooray!" As they're, like, getting ready to leave and, like, having their, like, hugs of success, Tristan grabs up the stone that had been, like, pulled off of Yvain's neck at some point during all of this. And as he touches it, it turns back into the ruby. Oh. And he holds it up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, what?" And Una says, "You're the last surviving male heir of the Stormhold bloodline." And just then all the ghosts are like, "Oh, le gasp! Oh no!
Le gasp!"
And then they all evaporate and get to go off into whatever they are going off to. So yeah, he gets to be king, and he does marry Yvain because they're in love, and it's wonderful. And at the coronation ceremony, he invited everyone from Wall as well, which is super nice of him. But Victoria and Humphrey are there, and Victoria's, like, sitting there with this, like, sour look on his face, like, or on her face, like, "Oh my god, I could have been queen of this world, but no, I'm stuck with Humphrey now."
I mean, it is Henry Cavill, so, like, not the worst outcome you could have had.
But also not a king.
But then you have to rule people.
I guess. But they ruled greatly, apparently. Sir Ian McKellen tells us. They were wonderful. Good. Wonderful rulers.
Thanks for that recap, Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. As long as you had the heart of the star, you could live forever. And apparently, since they were in love, Yvain had, quote, given her heart to Tristan, so he got to live forever. And then when, like, I guess when it was time for them to not be on Earth anymore, they don't necessarily say that they were old, but just, like, their children and grandchildren were grown. And so I guess they're just like, yeah, we should peace out now. Let someone else.
It's a long time to rule and be responsible
kind of like
for
Queen
other people.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
She's just, like, super old and refusing to give up the crown.
Just keeps going. Maybe she'll just become one with the stars.
Maybe. So anyway, they do have a Babylon candle that Una had given them as a wedding present, and they Babylon candle themselves up to the stars, and that's where they live. So the North Star is back, and it has a little friend as well.
So wait, we went, like, 2 generations without a North Star, and then all of a sudden the North Star came back.
Apparently.
That's gotta mess with all of the, like, nautical sailing and shit.
I'm sure they figured it out. It's okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. So, yeah, that is Stardust.
Hooray!
For Constellation. Yay. I'm sorry, it got a little bit long, and I tried to condense it down. I didn't mean for it to get so long. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's a good movie. I like it.
We'll just do one question.
Sounds golden.
Okay. So Ferdy, as I said, played by Ricky Gervais, and most of his lines were improvised. At one point, he's talking to Lamia. She was trying to get information out of him. And he starts babbling about, like, he could get you a 2-faced dog, and it'd be a great guard dog, blah, 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 blah. And Lamia's just, like, done with this. And so she says, enough, and, like, casts a spell on him. So what was the spell that she cast?
Okay.
Was it that he can make no noise at all? Was it that he would be quiet for just until she leaves and then he could talk again? Or was it he has to squawk like a bird for the rest of his life?
No noise until she leaves.
No, he has to squawk like a bird.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. So then later in the movie, Prince Septimus as well is trying to get information from him. And he's just, like, squawking at him. And Septimus is like, are you mocking me? And he goes, "Aah!" And Septimus kills him. So that is the end of Ferdy.
Rip Ferdy.
Rip Ferdy. Yeah.
He was the best among us.
Or the worst. I don't know.
Or the worst. Something like that.
Yeah. So, yay!
Yay! Beautiful. I love it.
All right. You want my very long quote again?
I'm gonna guess, because I've been thinking about it, and it's either Hitchhiker's Guide or Shrek.
It is not Hitchhiker's Guide. It is Shrek.
It is Shrek. Okay. Because there's the part about the flatulent, and I'm like, we've talked about this man like 3 different times, so it's very possible this could be a Hitchhiker's quote again.
It is a different flatulent guy. Yes, it is Shrek. I almost brought Shrek as the whole thing, but then I remembered Stardust existed, and
that's fair.
I think I could fit Shrek with something better.
Yeah. Shrek is a pretty solid movie. And definitely worth talking about.
When I was pitching our podcast idea to my mom, I said, so like, for example, if we picked the word dragon, I would do like How to Train Your Dragon. She says, oh, I would do Shrek. Like, okay, Mom.
See? That's the point, though. You get a random word, and then you just talk about the first thing that comes to mind, and it's a good time.
Yeah. So, I suppose we should ask what our next random word is.
Yes, what is our next random word?
The next word is Sunday.
Sunday? Now, is that spelt Sunday? Or is it spelt like the dessert?
Oh, that's a good question. I think open for interpretation based on our council conversation last time.
Sounds good. Okay.
Whatever it makes you think of, go for it.
Excellent.
And feel free to tell us what you talk about for Constellation. And then next time you listen in to us, we'll be talking about Sunday. Sunday.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Sunday. Actually on Saturdays. We come out on Saturdays. It's fine.
Usually. I try and get us out on Saturdays.
Before I start trying to do a terrible rendition of like a monster truck rally,
which is also not a pyramid scheme.
All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. I've been Stephanie.
I've been Allison.
And this is not a pyramid scheme nor a monster truck rally. Goodbye.
Bye.